In this video we are going to review constraints. Constraints is the important feature that might confuse you in the beginning. I have created 4 frames. I have one main frame and I have 4 frames inside it. Frames can be used in many situations, from buttons to the complex groups of elements like cards. But now it's just 4 blue rectangles. Let's see what happens if I choose the main element and try to change its size. Look, my 4 rectangles behave differently. Why does it happen? It happens because all 4 elements have different constraints. Constraints can be set here, and these blue lines reflect how the selected element behave in relation to the parent element. The parent element in our case is the frame that is called constraints. My first frame has left and top constraints. It means when I change the parent element, the margin to selected element from top and from the left remain the same. Figma even shows us where the constraints are by this blue dashed line. The second frame has constraints in the center. The third frame doesn't have constraints, instead it has scale, which means it will be resized proportionally to the parent element. The last element has the constraints at the bottom and at the right. Figma also shows it with the blue line. I delete 3 elements and leave only 1 to check how it will behave with different constraints. Now I have constraints at the left and at the top, and if I change the parent element, the margins at the left and at the top remain the same. I'll set the constraints at the center. As you might expect, the element will remain at the center. It will not change its size. I can also set the constraints at the right and at the bottom, and then the margins at the bottom and at the right will remain the same. If I set scale, the element will change the size proportionally. Let's see how it looks like. There is one more way to set the constraints. I can set the constraints both at the left and at the right, both at the top and at the bottom. By the way, I was holding Shift to choose both lines. Now the element will remain the same margins from all sides. Let's make the button from this frame. I'll choose the frame and will set the constraints at the left and at the top. It is the standard one. And I'll create a text in my frame. I wrote the text and aligned it at the center. I usually set the color of the button by the color of the frame, but let's assume that you have decided to create another rectangle to set the background. I'll make a new rectangle and place it in the button. Now let's see what will happen when we resize our button. By the way, I will also uncheck the clip content. It is the feature that hides everything that is outside the selected frame. Let's resize the button and see what happens. The button is resized, but not the elements inside it. To fix this, we have to set different constraints. First, pin the text to the center. Second, make the rectangle change the size proportionally to the main frame. And now when I change the size of the button, all the elements behave appropriately.